Hey everyone, and welcome back. Now today we're going to be going over the Virtuals protocol because I think this could be a 100x opportunity. There's so much crazy stuff happening within the Virtuals protocol. The Virtuals protocol price itself has kind of gone parabolic. There's a surging amount of interest within kind of AI agents. We're seeing a lot of AI agent movement kind of throughout the whole crypto space. This is a space that I think is going to draw a lot of attention and a lot of the narrative over the next couple months, potentially, maybe even longer. And it could even be like potentially the NFTs of this cycle, right? And so we're going to be talking a little bit about that going on. But first, before we go into that, I did want to take a look at crypto bubbles just because we can see it is a pretty good green day on the market. We actually can see virtuals down a little bit today, but overall things looking pretty good. AI16Z, this is another AI agent. This is why, or part of the reason at least we are talking about this today is because AI agents have really just been going kind of nuts lately. And so we can see the AI16Z up 36, almost 37% just on the day. And so things looking really, really crazy there. We can see on the week, we are seeing some pretty good green bubbles. Overall, you know, we were seeing red weeks for probably the past 2 or 3 weeks, but we are starting to flip. We can see more and more green bubbles coming in. We also can see greener and greener bubbles coming in. Obviously, the ones leading the way would be BGB, AI16Z, GT, Pengu, Aave, Curve, Virtuals, Radium, HBAR. Some of those, I mean, obviously we got more than that, but those are kind of the big ones leading the way. We can see AI16Z. Again, we're talking about AI agents today. This is a specific AI agent that's done 86% today, or this week, excuse me. So pretty crazy moves. If we look at the month, we can see 445%, 217 on virtuals, 600% on hyperliquid, which is nuts. This one we made a video about a couple weeks ago. Pretty interesting overall. I'm not really sure why the price is going so nuts. I mean, obviously there's a ton of trading going on there. And I guess if it's supposed to be just like an on-chain Binance, I suppose that makes sense. But overall, that's not the topic of today's video. We are going to be talking about Virtuals Protocol specifically. So let's go on and move on to that. We can see that Virtuals Protocol is covered on BTCC. You can actually trade that there if you are interested. More on that here in a second. We can see the chart's a little bit wonky. So we are going to be just looking at the trading view chart today because we got a little bit more history. The BTCC chart only has the past couple of days. But what we can see, obviously, price just going parabolic basically since like the end of October. You know, if you would have gotten in, let's say the 22nd of October, the price had been about 14 cents-ish roughly, and we're sitting at about $3.30 right now. Highs being almost $3.60. So some pretty insane moves to the upside. They only have 1 billion tokens, so, you know, basically do this times 1 billion. So their market cap sitting at about 3.3 billion right now. Overall, pretty decent. We can see that, we'll get into this a little bit more in a second. When you do create these AI agents, it does actually lock up the virtual token. And so this is something that can kind of help choke the supply a little bit and potentially even push the price further to the upside. So pretty interesting kind of mechanics that they've got there. We can see obviously a decent bit of liquidity zone down between this like 140 to 180 range. But since then, I mean, we haven't really even seen dips back to that. Even when we saw the market get a little bit nasty, it even only came back to about $2, but then obviously it has kind of pumped right back up to new all-time highs. And so obviously this chart is showing extreme strength. This is something that, you know, obviously it's hard to say exactly how high this could go. I mean, we could see maybe, you know, 10, 15, 20, 50, maybe even 100 billion, depending on kind of how the Virtuals protocol takes off overall, especially how the ecosystem does itself. And then especially, you know, we always have to think about kind of how frothy this potential bull market that we're going into could be getting. If it gets super frothy, then, you know, potentially we see something hit 100 billion in market cap, and maybe it's Virtuals, maybe we don't see it climb that high. Really hard to say overall, but overall things looking really, really, really good for the Virtuals protocol. If you are interested in trading Virtuals, like I said, you can do it on BTCC. I am working with BTCC for another month. They are still doing that 10% bonus on first-time deposits, which is a really, really great deal. This is in addition to the up to $10,055 of bonuses as well, but also the 10% bonus on first-time deposits is basically guaranteed. So it's a really, really good deal overall if you are looking for a new place to trade or even just like a secondary place to trade. They've been around for 13 years, so definitely a pretty decent timeline and track record for them. Also 300 plus crypto futures, so if there's something that you are interested in trading, they probably have it. Also 500x leverage. Again, I would strongly discourage using leverage up to this amount. Very, very dangerous using it up to this high, but they do have that if you have some sort of strategy or whatever that happens to work out for you. Also no VPN or KYC necessary if this is something that you are interested in. So like I said, just use the link in the description below if you're looking for a new place to trade or want to kind of diversify the places you're trading or anything like that. So moving on, I want to take a look at the Virtuals protocol because obviously we focused on just the coin itself, which is kind of like at the protocol level. Well, also part of the reason why virtuals has been going so nuts lately is because they have this whole marketplace where people can essentially like create AI agents, and then when they come online, people can use them, all of that type of stuff. We can see that the game and the Convo are kind of like the two, you could say, like cornerstone agents of the like virtuals system. You can see maybe not by market cap, AIXBT is the biggest one, Game is the second, but you can see actually Convos, there's a couple others kind of ahead of it, but we can see as far as AI inferences is concerned, Game and Convo are the two that are really strong. And so obviously pretty good there. We can see pulling back a little bit on the 24-hour, but if you've tracked these market caps over the past couple months, these have just absolutely exploded, right? And so we're obviously seeing new ones coming in here and there. This is kind of like the pump.fun or like pump.fun similar mechanics, but for AI agents. So it's really interesting. We can also go to prototype agents, and it'll show us these different like agents that haven't necessarily been created yet, but you could essentially help them like become created, because you essentially have to like contribute a certain amount to like get them built and like launch them and make them sentient, I think is kind of how they call it. But overall, they've got a lot of different interesting things here. We've talked about the AI coach one before. This is kind of like an AI fitness trainer, which in my opinion kind of seems to make a decent bit of sense. This is one that is interesting. It's actually gone up a decent bit over the past like weeks since I've been tracking it. So overall, pretty interesting kind of ecosystem that they have going on here. But we can see, obviously tons of volume kind of coming through the ecosystem, but not so much that like this looks to be like a pretty mature ecosystem. I think as more people kind of get turned on to virtuals and kind of this whole area, like we could see this do some pretty insane numbers. And so I am definitely keeping a super close eye on it. Like I said, you kind of need to decide what your like risk tolerance is. Maybe you only want to like go in at the protocol level, because then you're essentially betting on the success of the overall protocol. But then again, let's say you were to find something like, Iona only at 6 million in market cap. If this becomes the next, billion-dollar AI agent, then obviously you're going to do incredibly well for yourself. But there is very much a world in which the virtuals protocol overall is successful, but maybe this specific AI agent may not be. And so when you go down kind of that next level in terms of like looking for kind of the next gem, this is something where you could potentially get yourself into a little bit of trouble if you either get unlucky or guess wrong or whatever. So overall, just something to kind of keep in mind. The other thing I did want to take a look at, kind of moving away from the marketplace itself, is seeing kind of how things are going on Google Trends. We can see that interest over time is definitely going up for the virtuals protocol. Even just recently, essentially as recently as like the 13th of December, we could see that there was a massive surge in interest here. And ever since then, there's been a pretty consistent, and I would say even rising level of demand for people searching for the virtuals protocol. So this is something that's very interesting and definitely worth keeping an eye on to kind of see the sentiment overall of virtuals. I do think this is something where we're kind of just barely starting to like, obviously the coin itself has definitely seen some very massive growth, but we are just getting to the point where potentially people could start going further into like the marketplace itself, trying to find AI agents that are interesting and cool and like actually doing stuff that's like somewhat interesting. So overall, that's kind of what we're seeing here on the Google Trends. This is a pretty good sign, I would say, overall for fans of the virtuals protocol. More people are finding it, more people are taking note, taking interest, all of that type of stuff. I did also have 2 tweets I want to take a look at as well. If you are like super new to the virtuals protocol and wanting to kind of get your bearings a little bit, these are 2 tweets that I would say are probably worth taking a close look at, just because, so this tweet itself gives you a quick base AI recap. Obviously virtuals is kind of the one that leads that, but there are some others that are not within the virtuals protocol as well that they have mentioned down here. So you can see virtuals, Game, and Condor are kind of like the core, and then from here you've got Luna, Joseph Morris, some of these others, Agent Starter, all this type of stuff. We can see built on virtuals, outside of virtuals, some other interesting ones, things like that. So there's a whole bunch of like different like references and like different agents and projects and all this type of stuff. If you are looking to kind of check this out, get a little bit more like engaged or like up to speed of like what's going on within the virtuals protocol, I actually will like and retweet both of these. So if you want to go to my Twitter in the link in the description below, you'll be able to find these relatively easy, because I will have these liked and reposted so you can see them if you want. Also, the other one here is we can see, obviously, the virtuals protocol goes parabolic. We can see this is essentially like a tier list of just virtuals protocol agents. agents. We can see the S tiers being Virtual, AIXBT, Game, and Luna, and then we can see tier A being Convo, Vader, Sequoia, AIXCB, Music, Seraph, AIYP, G3, and Bro. So these are kind of the ones that they're ranking as kind of tier A, and then we can see a whole bunch of others as tier B. Again, I will repost and like this. If you guys are interested, we can see a follow-up tweet of all the tier B ones as well. Again, none of these are constituted as like investment advice or endorsements from myself. These are just essentially some tweets that like essentially look to have some pretty interesting and like good information to kind of help you get oriented into like the base AI ecosystem specifically, and even more specifically virtuals itself. And so if that is helpful, you know, hopefully there's something that you can find a little bit of value out of. And also hopefully you found this video useful and interesting as well. If you did, please do give me a like and subscribe, because it really does help me out. I am continuing, you know, always continuing to try and grow the channel and reach more people, things like that. And so if you would be willing to help me out with that, obviously I'd very much appreciate it. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, anything like that, also just feel free to drop those in the comment section below. I do try to read and respond to all of those, so if you have anything you want me to see, that'd be a great way to do so. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next video.